Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be making the Zynah bag by Kaur Threads. This pattern is her newest release, and I'm super excited to be able to do this. I'm going to go over some of the pieces that I'm going to kind of modified. So I am going to be doing the adjustable crossbody strap along with the handle or the shoulder strap. So for my shoulder strap, I'm actually going to be using this 1.5 inch strap webbing. This is webbing that I sell on my website, along with the matching zipper tape that I also have on my website. So for my adjustable strap, I am using leather, so I cut down a 1 inch piece, and I went ahead and skived it down. Then I cut a piece here, this is just a scrap piece here, that I did not skive. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pretty much add some tape onto this when we get to the strap. And I'm going to just top stitch this. Then I can cut the sides down to make it even, and that will be all for this. And then I'm gonna edge coat it, but this will be the adjustable strap. So let's get into it. So the first thing we're gonna want to do is we want to start with the shoulder strap. So like I said, I'm doing my shoulder strap a little bit differently. So I have these pieces here. And the hardware calls for 1 inch swivel clasp. So I'm going to pull out my swivel clasp here. And my pieces, these pieces are leather pieces that I just kind of drew out. I'll be able to, what I want to do is I'm going to add this in. So I add my 1 inch swivel clasp into here. And then I can just put in my strap like so. And then I can top stitch it, and then it's nice and encased. And that's what my handles or my shoulder strap is going to look like. That way, it's just a nice little decorative piece. So I'm going to trim down my shoulder strap. I'm just going to trim it down to about, let's see, so 35, so that's, yeah, 35. Do I want to do 40? So I'm going to cut mine here about 35 inches. Really, it's just like a decorative piece for me. I just like the look of an oversized. I just like the look of an oversized handle with a crossbody. So I am going to trim this down. I just cut this to 35 inches. On my first bag that I make, I did do the way that she has you do the shoulder strap, which I really, really like. It has no raw edges. So it was, I'm going to cut this down to 25 inches instead. Just because it is a 40-inch strap that she has you cut, but she has you attach the ends together and then sew around it. So it really is just a 20-inch strap. So I'm going to grab my pieces here and I'm going to add them on to my and then I'm going to get some double-sided tape. I just want to get it right here outside of my, not in my seam allowance, but just within the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and do this on both sides because I want this to be able to grip my webbing. So I went ahead and also I skived all of my pieces. This here I skived to about a 1/2 inch, just because that's kind of what my gauge was already set at. So, but I still wanted a little bit of thickness in the middle just to help give it some strength. So there we go. I'm going to peel off my tape here. And I want to make sure, one more time, I want to run this over with my, I want to make sure that this is not going to fray. Get this nice and even. So there we go. So we have the first strap and it's going to look like this, and then we're going to top stitch it. But before we do that, we want to add our second piece. I'm just eyeballing it, making sure it's nice and centered. Okay, so I'm just going to add another piece of tape right here because I did not like that it wasn't fully lined up nicely, so I'm just refolding. Okay. Alright. So this is what it looks like. This is what our strap handle is going to be. And I'm going to just start right in the center here, and we're going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm using Tech 70 thread from Sunny Sewing. Pretty much all of my thread is from Sunny Sewing. I don't buy thread from anywhere else. I just love their thread. I'm just going to continue going all the way around. I'm going to grab a piece of scrap leather that I have here just to protect my hardware. I'm going to go straight across as close as I can to my hardware without hitting it. Now that we're coming right back to the start, I'm going to just make sure it's nice and lined up. And there we go. Now I'm going to do the same thing to my second piece here. Just making sure my needle is down whenever I go to adjust. All right, there we go. So there are my strap. And they will just hook on. This is going to be the shoulder strap for my bag. So now we can go ahead, put this aside. We're going to move on to the strap here. So I'm basically just going to put this on and stitch down at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance right here. So there is our strap. And then what I will do is I will basically just cut along this edge here so it's all nice and even. And that will be finished. So I'm going to set my strap aside now. And we can move on to our zipper. So for this zipper, you're going to need a 9.5-inch zipper. And I typically like to cut mine as I go versus pre-cut, because sometimes I don't always end up making the bag, and then I end up using, you know, if I pre-cut, I end up cutting the zipper to that size, and then when I want to use it for a different bag, I've already used up all of that zipper tape. So I'm going to set that in there. Grab your zipper tabs as well. And your zipper tabs are going to be okay. So now grab your zipper tabs and your 9.5-inch zipper. And we want to just fold this in half. I am using waterproof canvas, so I don't have to worry about raw edges. And what I like to do is just run my lighter over, because if you run your lighter over, it kind of seals the edges here, so you don't get that fray. Also going to do the same to my zipper here. I'm going to grab my zipper pull, number 5 zipper. I'm going to grab double-sided tape. I'm going to put it right on the edge here of my zipper, on both sides. You can mark out your line if you want to, but when I folded my edge here, you can kind of see a crease. So I'm just going to line that up to that crease and then just make sure that this is even. I just want to make sure that this is exactly 9.5 inches. It's actually a little bit longer, so let me just trim this down here. inches. Same thing, I'm just going to crease this one more time. And there we go. And so now what we're going to do is we're just going to top stitch this here at 1/8 of an inch from that edge. Okay. I'm going to redo this side because I forgot to change my stitch length. And I like to have a bit of a smaller stitch length on my zipper tape instead of like a long stitch length, just so I know that it's going to be nice and secure. I'm just pulling out those stitches. And 1/8 of an inch. Making sure you back stitch. You don't have to, but I just like it just so it doesn't come undone whenever I go to put it in or trim it down. My snips are, all of my snips are either sticky or dull because my kids came in and we're using all of them to open popsicles. So okay. Now we're just going to trim down the canvas right here, the waterproof canvas or fabric, depending on what you used. And I'm just going to even these up right here. So you see this excess, I'm just going to trim this down so that it's nice and even with my zipper. So there we go. Whoops. Now we want to go ahead and grab, so we're on step 4 of the pattern. Let's grab our top lining right here. And we want to grab the piece we want to grab our top lining pattern piece so that we can trace on, or the template. Okay, so we are going to want to grab the top lining panel. This is after we've add our zipper tabs to our zipper, and grab a marking pen of some sort. And we want to place, and I cut mine on accident when I was grab a ruler. So we want to mark 3/8 of an inch from the top here. So just measure out 3/8. Mark your line. You're going to want to put your template piece up to that line right there, where that 3/8 is at. You want to mark the line. So just lining it up with that 3/8 of an inch line and then moving it up. So now you have this piece marked here. So it should look like this. Because what we're going to do is we're going to use this to stitch on. Now we're going to grab the front bottom lining. So grab one of your front bottom linings. Let's go ahead and mark our centers here. Mark my centers. I'm just going to go ahead and mark them on all of my pieces. Okay. You're going to place your back pocket panel. I'm trying to see this way. You're going to grab your zipper, right sides up, with the zipper opening to the right. I'm just going to mark my centers. Really, all I need is to just fold that, and I will get a little crease, and then I can just add in. And now we're going to base this here at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So basting this zipper pocket at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So there we go. We have it basted on at the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Let me zoom out in just a tad if my remote will work. Okay. Now we're going to grab our piece here. I'm just going to trim down some of this excess interfacing that I have hanging off. So you want to make sure that you have your top right here. You want your top facing down. So this curve should be at the bottom, not at the top. And you're just going to match these centers here. We're going to stitch this on with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So now we have this stitched on at that 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and we're going to pull up. So we have our seam right here. We're going to pull our top piece up so that the seam falls to the bottom. So when you flip it, you see that your zipper is wrong, or you're seeing the wrong side of your zipper. Now we're just going to top stitch this here at the bottom at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Our piece should look like. So we are going to set this aside for now. And I'm going to grab my front panel. I also want to grab my tag here. And I've marked all of my pieces so that I know where my tops are at. So I have my top labeled here, just so I know. Let's go ahead and mark these centers here. So I'm just going to find them by folding, like so. And for my interfacing, for my leather, I use Fuse Plus. And you can see it gives it still a nice amount of structure. Grab my ruler here. Now that I have my center, I'm going to measure up 2 inches from the top here, or the bottom, not the top. And I'm going to mark where my tag is going to be. And now, okay. I also want to just add a little bit of reinforcement to the back, just to kind of make it a little bit extra, a little bit more secured. So I have these Decovil Light pieces that I just trim up from scraps. And I'm just going to carefully edges there. Open up my bag tag. I'm going to put and there we go. So I now have my tag placed on. And of course, I forgot to put on my Decovil Light. That's okay. So now that we have our front panel, grab your zipper pocket panel here, and you want to tape your zipper down. Let's see if I can. Just going to use I'm just using some duct tape to help hold my zipper down temporarily. So now that we've taped this down here, we are going to place our lining right sides touching. So just going to match up my centers and then clip around. And now we are going to just stitch on this line that we drew out, that little round right there. So just follow that markings that you made. Just going slow, making sure I get a nice curve here. And then I'm just taking it one stitch at a time. There we go. I forgot to mention, I am using Sew Fuse on my lining pieces here because I'm using a cotton, which normally I don't use a cotton, but I found this really pretty leopard print and I knew I just had to use it with this pretty brown leather. So now we're going to want to trim up the seam allowance right here. So I'm going to start right here. And usually I prefer to use pinking shears, but I don't have those at the moment. I'm just going to round this out here. Okay. And then I want to make sure that I notch into my pieces here. And I want to make sure that I don't go over my stitching. So I'm just taking some notches out to help with that curve. So now that I've notched those, what I want to do is just carefully make sure that I'm as close to those stitching without going over it, just enough to where it kind of just opens up a little bit. So I just clipped a little bit more so you can see where it kind of opens up. So. And now we're going to open or fold this over here. So let's put this right sides together. I'm actually going to trim down more of this here. Especially the leather. I did trim down some of that. I did skive it, so it's not super bulky, but I want to avoid as much bulk as possible. Okay. So now I'm just going to roll these over here. Trim down more of this. You're not getting a good curve, you can add more clips. All right, now I'm just really making sure I get into that seam and roll it over so none of the lining shows. And now we're going to top stitch this here at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So we want to top stitch this. Still want to make sure your zipper is down and out of the way. Okay, so now we need to grab our second bottom lining here. We're going to set this right sides up. Let's go ahead and find our centers once more. I'm going to find my center on my zipper. And we're going to set our zipper just like this, right to the center. So we're just centering this. And we're going to base this on with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So, okay. So let's base this here with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So now that we have that basted on our zipper, we can grab the, we need to top stitch. So let's grab our zipper here. So you want your front panel to be facing right sides down with your back panel here facing right sides up. And then you want to make sure, nope, sorry. We need to add our front panel. Then we can top stitch. Getting ahead of myself. So I'm just going to find my centers on both of my pieces here, my top and my bottom. Like I said before, I did mark my tops already so I know what side is my top. Go ahead and grab your top panel piece here, align those centers, and then you're going to stitch this on with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Like so. So your panel should look like this right now. You're going to pull this and top stitch now. So you want to make sure that when you are top stitching your bottom piece, you want your seam allowance to be towards the second front bottom lining. So this is your second front. This is that seam. You want it facing down just like the other one here that we did. And we're going to top stitch this at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So now your panel should look just like this. And now all you're going to do is you're going to match this seam here, so the seam that we have top stitch here, with the top stitch seam right here. So you want to match those two seams together like this. So you see those two seams. I'm going to match them. Making sure that this stays nice and aligned. So I'm just making sure that they're together, just like this. And this is going to naturally just want to curve or fold over. And now let's measure this out. We want to make sure that this is 9.5 inches tall. There we go, 9.5 inches. Just okay. And now we are going to stitch this down here with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So pretty. Love this. And now we can move on to assembling the back panel. Oh. So we need to attach this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this back here. And I can just take off a couple of these stitches here, because we need to close up our back. I can just go back here and catch that seam that I unpicked. And I can do the same thing to the other side here. And trim down. This excess overhang. All right, and there we go. We now have our side pocket done. I'm gonna even up my edges here. Making sure I'm not cutting my leather, I'm just cutting the lining overhang here. Okay. And here we go. So that is our front piece. So pretty. And now we can move on to assembling our back panel. Okay, So now that we have finished the front panel, we're now going to move on to the back panel. So for this step, you're going to have your back top panel, which is piece C, your back pocket panel, which is piece D, and your back pocket lining, piece O. So those are going to be the pattern pieces that you're going to need. As for the hardware, you're going to need the 14mm magnetic snap. So real quickly, we'll grab the magnetic snap. And all of the hardware I am using is from a mix of places. So I have my magnetic snaps here that you can find on my website. I have two options for the strap, like the adjustable strap. I'm not exactly sure if the thickness of it. This one here is from my shop, and it does really well with fitting thicker straps like vinyl, but I do have the wide mouth straps from Emmeline Bags. So I have both those. I have the purse feet here, which are from My Handmade Space. I love to get the mushroom dome purse feet from there. And then I have, this is a just a regular donut zipper, number 5 zipper from My Handmade Space. And then these here are from my website, the fancy D-rings here in 1 inch, and then the zippers that I have along with the zipper in. So we can grab our 14mm magnetic snap along with the washers that go with it. And we can go ahead and grab step 5, which I have right here. So I have my back pocket top and my back pocket panel. And then these here are just the cute little pattern pieces organizer that you can get from, not Orvos, oh my goodness, from Rivets. So I love these because I typically use these to hold on to my patterns whenever I am cutting. And so they actually came with a bunch of really, really cute ones. Look at this one for Halloween, this little thread one. Frosted. She had quite a few, and of course I had to grab some because it's nice to have nice little things whenever you're sewing. They're not necessary. You can easily use these here. These are clips that I got from a local hair supply beauty shop, and I like these because you can see they have this like little like 1/8 of an inch spread, so you can easily clip in those extra, like for vinyl and leather. So, and those are relatively cheap. I think it's like 50 in a pack for like $4. So I have my 14mm magnetic snap, and we are going to grab our back pocket panel, the back pocket lining piece here. Set this to the back, and we're going to measure out the we want to measure out the magnetic snap. But real quickly, because it's kind of been sitting, it's a little wrinkled just from it being all folded and the baskets being on it. So I'm gonna run to my iron and iron this out real quick. Okay, so now that we have our back panel piece here, or back pocket lining, I have went ahead and just hit it with the iron to help straighten it out. And then you're going to grab your pattern piece here. And don't mind this hole, this is just how I hang up my pattern pieces. So we're just going to put this on nice and even. I'm going to turn it to the wrong side. grab your pen. You just want to mark this out right here. So we have it marked out. Grab your washer. And we are going to just line up that center and then mark the prongs right here on this side. For this piece, I do definitely want to make sure that I add in this stabilizer here. So these are just some Decovil Light pieces. You can simply just add it on to your, you can fuse it to your panel piece right here. I'm just going to mark out. And since this is not on leather, I do definitely want to make sure that I add this on. Being careful not to get my fingers. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and real quickly, I also want to find my centers. Just so this is already done whenever I go to add it on. I'm going to trim down some of this excess interfacing overhang I have. Find my center, small little clip, turn this over, and we can add in our, and I have found, so sometimes I used to always go through the top, but I hardly had any control going into my, sometimes I would go too far and I would go past my line. So let me just zoom you in real quickly so you can kind of see. Okay. So you can see right here, I used to go in through this way and it would go past all the way through. I found if you go with your blade pointing up like this instead of down, it's upside down, and you go in from the bottom here, once you get it in, you have more control, see? Than if I were to go from here and I would end up cutting down here and going way past the line that I wanted to. And I just found that that's just easier and it's helped a lot. So I make sure I have this on. And we are going to use the male side, which is the side that has the little snap piece here. Also, I'm sorry if you see that my fingers are red. I made the poor mistake of eating hot Cheetos yesterday. So, yeah, I have hot Cheeto fingers. I was not thinking, and I was like, oh, I forgot I am filming a video, or in the process of filming a video. So, now that I have my pieces, or my stabilizer and my washer, I'm just going to set this in. I like to push it down a little bit. Grab some double-sided tape, or not sided tape, sorry. Duct tape. And go ahead and place it on. So that it's nice and held on. You don't have to worry about the washers rubbing up against any of your fabric and eventually wearing it down and probably tearing through, especially if you're using like a cotton. So that's what I am putting that little magnetic snap or duct tape. So we're going to set these pieces aside for now until we get back to our other side of the panel. So now that we have the mouse snap in and the masking tape on top, we are going to grab the back pocket panel and the bottom pocket panel. So I have my back top and I have my back pocket. We want to align the top, so I'm going to mark my centers on my pieces. I typically try to do this while I'm cutting just so that this step is out of the way, but I just was not thinking. So I'm just getting my centers. I'm going to do the same thing with my other side. So there we go. So I have my centers finished. I'm going to zoom out just a tad. That's where y'all can see better. So we're gonna grab the back pocket panel. So this is the top, so we're gonna set that aside, and we're just gonna be working with the back pocket panel and the lining. So like I said, I did mark my tops already, so I know. We're going to clip the, the bottom edge of the back pocket lining, which is this right here, which it has a magnetic snap on it. And it faces right sides up. And we want the top edge of the back pocket panel. So we have our top edge here and our bottom edge. And this is how we're going to attach it. So bottom, top, matching that center. And I'm going to add some of these clips here. And we're going to sew this at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm going to add some double-sided tape right here. You absolutely don't need to do this, but because I am using this leather, I want it to lay flat. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim that or attach the leather just to help hold it for me, so that I get a nice top stitch. So I'm just folding this down like this, and then I can fold this over, and you can see I get a nice clean edge here. And all I have to do is just roll down this seam here. You can definitely add some double-sided tape to the other side here, to the lining, but I find that it's a little easier to work with it's easier to work with than the leather, the thickness of it. So we're going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So we have that top stitch right there. It's so pretty. Okay. We are now going to be adding the back panel, or the back top panel, sorry. It's a lot of back pieces. It's getting me all confused. So let's go ahead and grab that back top panel. So we grabbed our back top panel, and we have the T right here for top. We want to place this over, so your magnetic snap is going to be down here. This is your back pocket panel. This is going to be the back of it. So the magnetic snap is facing me, and we're going to place the bottom edge of the back top panel. So bottom edge here to here. So it's going to be upside down. Match those centers. And we're going to stitch this at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So that is stitched on, remember, upside down. We want to fold it up, and we want to top stitch this area here. So I'm going to just press down here so that I can get a nice crease. And we're going to top stitch at the bottom on the lining side. At 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, we're going to top stitch this right here on the edge, making sure I like to back stitch. I know you're probably like, it's going to go in the seams. I just like to back stitch. It just eases my mind, I guess, that it's not going to fall apart. A line want to mark 2 3/4 of an inch from the top. I'm going to grab my marking pen, and I want to mark that. This is a leather pen from a leather silver marking pen from Tandy's that I'm using. So now that we have marked that 2 3/4 of an inch seam allowance right here, or 2 3/4 of an inch from the top, we want to grab our piece here, and we just want to mark it or set it here. So just right with that line, and you want to make sure that it is going to be 9.5 inches, just like the front panel was 9.5 inches. So I'm just going to clip this and double check that it's 9.5 inches. 9.5. 9.5. Perfect. Before I finish, or I stitch this, I just want to rub off the marking pen, because if not, I will forget. So I'm just using a baby wipe to mark that silver pen off. and we're going to stitch this now here on the side at we're going to stitch this at 3/8 or a quarter of an inch seam allowance on the side. I am doing this before I put the magnetic snap in. That way I know that the measurements are okay. If you want to, you can totally put in the snap like the pattern instructs. Then it just snaps in and it's nice and easy. I'm wondering if I should. I think it'll be okay. So 9.5 inches. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to base this on the side here. I'm going to do in about a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, but it does have you do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, and now we can add in our snap. So I'm going to grab my silver marking pen, and I just like to run this over the male part, and I'm just going to make sure that it sits nicely. I can kind of see where the indent is at, but just to be sure, you can see now where it marked it. So it's matching perfectly with the indent that I had already made from pressing. And we are going to grab the washer. Center that. Add in the markings for the prong. I'm going to grab my craft knife and be very careful, especially because it is leather. Okay, now I can wipe off. I'm going to wipe off the silver just so it doesn't get onto my lining, just in case. I'm going to add in the interface or the stabilizer just to help. Add in stabilizer. Okay, and there we go. It now is perfectly aligned. And I'm going to add my duct tape to the back. Okay. And there we go. This piece is now done. We can set this aside and we can move on to step 6, which is our side pieces. So I'm going to grab the side panel pieces along with my strap connectors. First thing we're going to do is we want to mark our straps. So I just skived the sides. So these are 2-inch wide, so there we go, 1 inch. Grab a double-sided tape. The other side, add double-sided tape here as well. You can use a 1/2 inch as, if you would like down the middle. Typically that's what I do, but since I am using leather, I like to put it on both sides so that it doesn't pill up on me. And so now we can just fold this to the center. Going to do the same thing, just get this as close as I can. And then move on to the other side. I'm going to grab thought I had my poly roller so that I could roll this. But I don't know where it's gone, so I'm just going to use this one. Just want to make sure that, whoops, my leather folds down. Okay, so same thing, just going to butt this up to that line. Grab the second side and do the same thing. I like to start in the middle. This just helps make sure it's nice and even and that I don't pull. So if I start on this side, I don't want to accidentally pull too much to where I stretch it. And I just found that this is the easiest way to make sure that they are nice and even. Okay. So now that this is done, we are going to mark our centers here. So I'm just going to grab the ruler here. And we want this to be 2.5 inches for this mark. And I am going to just a small little dot. You can't really see it. Same thing, 2.5 inches here. So we've marked that center. Grab our D-rings. I found my poly ruler. I knew I saw it somewhere. I just cannot remember where. There we go. This is... So on the back of your side panels, you should have this piece marked out, which you can find from the side panel piece. She provides the cutout. So I'm going to grab my cutting mat here, and I want to cut this little shape out. You want to make sure that you don't cut it fully out. You're just cutting where these lines are marked. So and you don't want to go past it either. And just do the same for the other side here. Okay. So now that that is all done and cut out, or, you know, cut at the top where it's supposed to be cut, we're going to add in our D-ring here, or our strap connector. You want the wrong side here where you can see the little marking. You want to make sure that it is right sides up. So you want to make sure that when you put it in, it goes in like this. Because then it will come down like so. So we're just putting it in right to that line that we marked. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. So add in your strap, making sure that it goes right up to that line. that we drew out. You can see it right there. So you're just placing your piece in, and then we're going to turn this over, and you want to just stitch here at a 1/4 of an inch. You want to make sure that you don't go past this area. So you don't want to go past your strap connector. So I would say right about here is where you want to stop. You don't want to go past because you'll see those stitches. You just want to sew right here because you won't be able to see it from the other side. So just double checking. Okay, so let's stitch this at about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Making sure you back stitch. We're going to do the same thing to this other side here. And they're almost. Luckily, I double checked. Like I said, you want to make sure that your top piece here is up. We're going to fold this down, making sure it stays. Just double checking, make sure it's folded. You want to make sure it's nice and straight. And here we go. Okay. From there, we are going to slip in our D-ring. And we can now add it to the bottom. So you're just going to flip it through that opening, or slide it through the opening, so that it's like so. And now you want to just stitch that flap right there. And you're going to stitch right here. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to both of my pieces. We're going to stitch that just like we are going to do on the other side. So and you don't want to go over your, I'm going to move this up. Okay. I'm just trimming this down here, these excess threads, and this is what your bag should look like. And then we are going to add a rivet right here, and it's done. So set that aside, and add my second one. Just want to make sure it's nice and even. Make sure I hold my thread tails. Okay, so now we're going to add on the rivets to the connectors here. Also, I just kind of want to apologize because my kids are home, so they might be a little loud because they have to come in here to get like milk and stuff in the fridge. So you might hear the little ones. So now that we have this all done, let's go ahead and punch that hole. So I'm just going to use this little setting. Poke it out. I'm actually going to change out to a smaller okay. So we're going to grab our ruler and we want to measure a 1/2 inch from this fold here. So a 1/2 inch from that fold. Let me zoom y'all in. See if I'm able to zoom y'all in a little bit more. There we go. So I have that line right there. This is my 1/2 inch, and I'm going to just mark it here, making sure it's nice and centered. I'm gonna grab another silver marking pen because mine is running out. Okay, awesome. By myself. Good job. Okay, so so I have this 1/2 inch here, and I'm just going to punch the hole. I'm gonna have to eyeball it because I have no idea where my to add in my rivet. I'm just going to push that through. Oops. Add my rivet on. There we go. You'll have your first one, and I'm going to just set that aside while I do my second piece. And I'm just going to measure out, making sure it is a 1/2 inch. So I kind of marked it. You can kind of see the dot right there. I'm just going to take my punch. Okay. Grab. And now we can set these rivets here. I'm just going to grab my rivet press right here. And set it. Do the same to my second one. And there we go. Okay, so now that these are completed, we are going to trim down the piece here. Like so. So now we have our connectors. You want to trim it so that it's shorter than the bottom connector. So there we go. Set this aside. And we are going to grab our base piece now. So this is my base. I have this interfaced with 3 layers of Fuse Plus. So we want to flip this over to the wrong side. Grab your ruler, and we're going to mark out 5/8 of an inch all the way around our base. So zoom out a little bit. Okay, let's see. So you're just going to mark that around. I'm going to grab my longer ruler just because it's able to go through the whole piece so I'm not having to move it 5/8 of an inch. Eighths of an inch and 5/8 of an inch on this side. Okay, so now that I have my 5/8 of an inch marked out, we're going to flip this over because we were supposed to do it on the right side. So let's try that again. I'm going to grab another marking pen, silver marking pen. So like I did on the wrong side, we're going to just mark this here at 5/8 of an inch. And do the same thing to the other side, 5/8 of an inch and 5/8 of an inch on this side. And you just want to stitch on that line there. And this is just kind of like a decorative stitch. So you can leave your tail threads long. I just back stitch. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab baby wipe and wipe off the I'm just going to wipe off that marking tape or pen. And there we go. So we now have our decorative stitch at the bottom. And now we can measure our at our purse feet. So grab your ruler, marking pen on the wrong side, or you could do it on the right side as well. We are going to measure 2 inches from 2 inches from the short side, and then 1.5 inch from the long side. So 1.5 inches by 2. mark 1.5 inches by 2. One and a half inches by 2, and then 1.5 inches by 2. I'm just gonna redo this here so that 1.5 inches there. Okay, perfect. So nice and even. And now what we're gonna do is we want to find our centers. So I'm going to add a snip right here. Line these up so they're nice and even. Add a snip here. And you want to line these centers up here. And just make sure that this is even. Okay, so there we go. We now have our centers. I'm just going to now make my mark. So I'm going to mark a straight line here. And then I'm going to mark a straight line from this side here. And that is where you will have your 5th. That is where you will have your 5th purse foot. Sorry. Cannot do 2 things at once, apparently. So it's a little off. So you will have your purse feet right here. One here, one here. So you have these 2, and then one right in the center. So now we can just grab our washer and we're just going to mark out where we want to put our slits at. My purse feet are ready to go in. So you're going to go from the right sides and add them in. Okay. Grab my last purse feet so I can add it in. I'm going to add some duct tape to these feet here. So I'm just fixing this, shifting this over, making sure it's all the way down. You don't want to see where the hole is. Sometimes it doesn't go all the way in, so you just got to really make sure. There we go. Just double checking this over. Perfect. Add another piece of tape. Okay, there we go. So now we have our purse feet attached. So now we're going to grab all of our completed exterior pieces. So you're going to want your completed exterior front, your completed back panel, the 2 completed side panels, and the completed base here. You also want the side panel pattern pieces. So I'm just going to grab my side panel pieces. So you're going to want to grab your side panel piece right here. And we're going to grab our front and our back panels. So starting with the front panel, we're going to mark 1/4 of an inch from the top here. So a 1/4 inch. So we have our 1/4 inch. We're going to do the same thing to the back panel. Want to mark that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Quarter inch, 1/4 inch. Okay, so now we have 1/4 inches marked at the top of our panel. So these are going to be the tops here, which I did mark my tops. So now we are going to mark a 1-inch line from the inside of this edge here So mark 1 inch there and mark 1 inch here. So now you have 1 inch marks on this sides here. And you're going to do that to both of your pattern pieces. So 1 inch. So these should be about 10 3/4 of an inch from, so it should mark 10 1/4 between these marks here. 10 3/4, yeah, perfect. So now we're going to mark a line 3/8 of an inch from the bottom of our edges here. So 3/8 of an inch. Three-eighths of an inch. Okay. Do the same to the other side panel. So your back panel at the bottom here, we're going to do that 3/8 of an inch from here, from the edge. Okay. So now that that is completed, you should have it marked. So I'm just going to double check. Okay, perfect. So 3/8 of an inch and then that 1/4 inch. And now what you want to do is you're going to get your ruler. We'll start with one side here. And you want to match up this line that we marked, so this 3/8 of an inch to here. You're going to angle your ruler from there, right at the end here, and then making sure it lines up to here. Just like this. And do the same thing to the other side. So marking it here, making sure it's nice and angled. So there we go. So you have that line there. Repeat that to the other panel. So lining up. Now we have the second edge. Making sure it's lined up. It does shift maybe a little bit. Okay. So there we go. We now have these marked out. Okay, so we want to align this curved piece here, or the line of the top straight edge of the pattern piece aligned with the 1/4 of an inch marking here. So just like so. And then we want to mark so you get that slant. Do the same thing to the other side. Making sure you get that slant. Repeat that to the second side. Same thing here, making sure that this top is aligned. Okay, so there we go. We now have these slants on our 2 panel pieces. I'm going to trim this down. Now we can stitch right here. So you're just going to stitch right where we're going to cut these into this pocket. So from here to here within that 1/8 of an inch. So you want to make sure that you stay on this side of your seam allowance towards the actual like bag here. This is just going to help close this. Make sure when we cut this down that it doesn't open up. We're going to cut along the slant lines on both sides. So the lines that we drew, so cut on those slant lines. And we are now going to trim along this 1/4 inch line that we drew. But you want to make sure that you trim on that slant that we also drew out, so it should look like this. So your piece should look like this. You can see that slant right here. You're going to repeat that to the other side as well. So there we go. So you just have 2 pieces that look just like this. I'm going to mark my centers again so that this will help it. This will help when I go to put my lining in. Grab your bottom lining piece here. We're just going to set these aside for now because we're going to use it in a little bit. We want to just mark out 3/8 of an inch all the way around the edge here. So I'm just going to mark right where these 3/8 of an inch are so that it doesn't get confusing with the other marks. Grab your side panels, and we also are going to mark 3/8 of an inch from the bottom here of your side panels. So 3/8 of an inch. And 3/8 of an inch. So you should have 3/8 of an inch marked on both of your bottom panels. Grab your front and your side panel pieces. And we're going to attach them to the side here. I'm going to push down my D-ring so that it doesn't get in the way. It will help also to get this to fit. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Making sure my D-ring is down. Okay. So for this part here, what we're going to do is we're going to start at these 3/8 of an inch marks that we have marked. So these 3/8 of an inch, we're going to start here, go all the way up, and then back stitch. And then on this side, we just want to stop on this side. We don't want to go past this 3/8 of an inch. There we go. So we now have our side panels attached. Clip side panels here to our back. So grab your back panel. And the same thing, you're just going to put this on. Okay, so just like I did before, I'm going to sink my needle in, take a couple stitches, back stitch, and then just continue all the way down. Now we're going to repeat this to our second panel here. Okay, so I apologize. I guess I ran out of memory, so we missed the part of attaching this bottom panel piece here. So what we did was we marked out 3/8 of an inch from the bottom of our side panels along with the bottom of our base here. And we then just stitched from the top here, making sure we backstitch and making sure that we stopped at that 3/8 of an inch mark that we made at the bottom of our piece. So you can see right here where I have that 3/8 of an inch marked out. So I started with the long sides. I attached my long sides here, making sure I stopped at the 3/8 mark right here and making sure I don't go past it. And I did that for both sides. And then I went down this side here from making sure I put my needle right here at that 3/8, went down and making sure I did not go past that 3/8 mark there or the other stitching that was already there. And that is how I attached my base piece. For trimming, you want to trim it down to 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, making sure that you leave the seam allowance alone at the top 2 inches down. So what I did was I marked 2 inches down, and then that's where I trimmed down my edges, making sure I V'd out when I got to that 2 inch marks on both sides right here. So now I am just trimming that last part here of the bottom panel. And I'm sorry if you can hear my little one. He's hanging out in my workroom with me. So we're going to grab some double-sided tape and we're going to add it to the ends of our piece here. So I'm going to just grab some 1/4 inch tape here. And I'm going to add it to all of my sides here. So I'm going to add this 1/4 inch tape right here on that seam allowance that I left uncut. So I'm going to go here, do the same thing. Just adding this tape. Making sure I have tape on all of my seams here. Okay, so now that we have added the double-sided tape to our seams, we're just going to open this up now. So here we go. Yes. Sorry, my little one's hanging out with me in here. He's practicing his cutting. So now we can just open up these seams here. I'm just going to add okay, so I just need to add one more piece of double-sided tape to this side here. And clip. So I'm just gonna hold that down. Okay. So now we can just set this aside for now. We want to grab our lining pieces. We're going to be making our slip pocket along with our interior zipper pocket. So I'm going to grab my lining pieces along with my top panel pieces, and I want to mark my centers. Okay, so now that we have our zipper facing, I like to add some double-sided tape to the zipper facing just to make it a bit easier for me. Grab your ruler, your chalk pen, and we're going to mark one 3/4 of an inch from the top, and you want to mark a 7.5 inch box. And you want to go a 1/2 inch down from there. I'm going to switch to a chalk one. This pen, it's a little bit easier to work with. 7.5 inches here. You just want to make sure that it's 7.5 inches. Okay. All right. So now we have this box here that is marked out to 7.5 inches. you're going to grab your double-sided tape and remove it from your zipper facing. And now we're just going to line it up with this box that we just made. And that is where you're going to place.
Mama.
Yes, Bubba's. Oh. Don't touch something. Okay. So now we have our zipper facing, right? So we have our zipper facing right here. And what we're going to want to do is trim this, or not trim this, sorry, don't trim. You want to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch around the outer edge. Not this inner edge, you want the outer edge. So we're going to top stitch this. But I'm going to set this aside for now since I have my little one in my lap. And we're just going to go ahead and move on to the zipper and getting it onto, or I'm going to just add some double-sided tape to hold down the zipper. So I'm going to get 1/8 of an inch tape, double-sided tape that I have. This is from, the tape that I'm going to use is from Tandy Leathers. Yeah. So we're going to add our zipper. So the zipper here is, going to be, yeah, it's a zipper. So this zipper is going to be, you want it to be 9.5 inches. This is just a scrap piece that I have. So, so I am going to just use this piece. It's okay if it's a little bit longer because then I can just trim it down. And yeah. Okay. I'm sorry about that.
Mama.
Yes, you're working with me. Sometimes we have to. Sometimes moms don't get a break. So. So I am going to just use a scrap piece here. So it's supposed to be 9.5 inches. Like I said, I'm going to use a scrap piece, and I am going to grab my double-sided tape and add this on. Okay, so I'm sorry about that. Now that my little Echo has gone to sleep, I'm able to get back to sewing. So we're just going to go ahead and stitch on this zipper facing. We marked a box that was 1.5 inches, sorry, 1 3/4 of an inch down from the center, and then we drew out that 7.5 inch box that is 1/2 inch wide. Now we want to just top stitch the outer side of your zipper facing. I'm just going to take this one stitch at a time. Okay. So now we are going to, I'm going to heat set my, just heat setting my threads real quick. Now we're going to cut out this box. So now that we have that done, we're going to just set that aside. And now we're going to move on to our zipper pocket. So I'm just finding my centers on my piece. And I'm just going to add my zipper on. And we're going to base this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So there we go. Now we're going to turn this around, match up the centers again, and I'm just kind of making sure that my center here aligns with my center up here. And now we're going to just stitch this on again with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, so now that we have our zipper on, I'm just going to try to push this down here. And now I'm going to grab my 1/4 inch tape. And I'm going to add it on to my zipper. Do the same to the other side. Go ahead, trim that down. And now we have our zipper completed. I'm going to just grab my hardware and I'm going to add on my a zipper. I'm going to use the donut one since it's an inside bag. Grab my zipper jig here. Just going to add my zipper pull on real quickly. First I'm gonna get to all right. Should we do this? Okay. I'm going to start with one side, and I like my zipper to open from, open to the right. So now I'm just gonna center this. Just making sure this is all nice and aligned. All right, so just making sure this is nice and even. And now we're going to stitch this at 1/8 of an inch. You want to make sure that your pockets are open when you go to sew this. When you go to sew your top stitch around here. So you want your pockets to be open. Also, make sure your zipper pull is on. I'm going to actually start on the side here. You can leave your tails long, or your thread tails long, so that you can pull it through and tie it off. I'm just going to back stitch. All right, so now we have our zipper pocket done right here. So we are going to open up your sides here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to even up this piece here. So I'm just going to grab my scissors and trim. Now I'm going to just turn this up just a little bit. This will just help when I go to close my bag. It will give it a nice even look. Be easier to fold over. Typically I would clip this. I'm just going to pin it because I'm using cotton. Okay. And now we're going to just sew this here down this edge. And you're going to sew it at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Oh, sorry, a 1/4 inch seam allowance on the side. So 1/4 inch. We can set this aside, and now we're going to move on to the second lining with the slip pocket. So grab your slip pocket trim. I'm going to trim the excess interfacing. So you want to grab your pocket piece here, and you want this to be the side that is 10.5 inches. So this is my 10.5 inch side. And I'm going to mark my centers. On both sides here. And we're going to measure out 1 inch from the edge here. So 1 inch from each edge, just right here on the shorter side. You're going to want to grab some double-sided tape. Add it along the ends here. To the other side here. Take off the double-sided tape, and then you're just going to fold down to that line you just marked. Now I'm just going to match my centers. Okay. And I'm just going to base this at 1/8 of an inch right along this top. I'm just folding this to get like a nice crisp edge. I'm actually going to go to my iron and iron this up. Okay, so now that I have my piece all ironed out, we can grab our slip pocket trim, and we're going to measure 1/2 inch from the edge here. I'm going to grab my 1/2 inch tape. Add that down the middle. I'm just going to center that. And then fold over. And I'm just going to use my poly roller here to really set that crease in. And then we're going to top stitch this at the bottom here at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. We have our slip pocket. We're just going to trim off this excess right here. And now we are going to grab our lining piece. So grab your lining piece. The centers are already marked on our linings, and we're going to measure 3.5 inches from the bottom. So 3.5 inches from the bottom here. I'm going to measure out my center here, which is going to be about 4 3/4. Mm. 4 5/8 really. So 4 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to measure out here. I can just and just marking my centers once again. I can just align this here. And now I can just pin this down. And now we just are going to base this around at 1/8 of an inch. And now I'm going to just stitch up that line, that center that I marked out. So now that that is completed, we can add our rivets. Add in our rivets here. I'm just going to eyeball. I'm going to add some stabilizer to the back and re-punch this just because I have this cotton woven here and it's, you can see that it will easily go through. Okay, so I have quickly just added on some of this Decovil Heavy. Now you can see I can set it through. Not have to worry about it tearing through. Especially because this is going to be getting a lot of use. If you're putting stuff in here and you're going to be pulling it out and stuff, you want to make sure that it's nice and secured. To grab my rivet here, my rivet press. and set my rivets. Perfect. So now that we have the slip pocket completed, we are going to move on to the zipper pocket. So with that, you're going to want to grab your 2 exterior zipper pockets along with your lining, pockets here. So you're going to have your lining and your exterior. Grab your 14-inch zipper as well. Going to heat set this and then trim down about there is the 14-inch zipper. You're going to want to grab your zipper pull. I am not going to use a zipper end tab. I'm just going to use a regular zipper, like a metal zipper end. So actually, we do not have to, because since I'm doing the metal zipper, and I don't have to worry about putting it on right now until the end. So I'm just trimming this down. Just making sure that there's no like excess overhang of the interfacing here. So what I like to do is I like to just burn the ends of my zipper to set it in place without stitching it. Just melt the ends. So let's see. I'll try to zoom y'all in. I guess it's as far in as I can get y'all, but so I'm just folding it like so. Making sure my fingers are out of the way and that everything is going to be and I carefully just press it, making sure I don't burn myself. So there we go. So I now have my zipper in place, or the zipper ends turned. And we are going to mark our zipper pockets. So turn over both of your zipper pockets. Grab a ruler, marking pen, and we're going to mark 1 inch from each side. So on both our exterior and lining, we are going to mark 1 inch from the short edge here. So actually, I'm just going to use a small ruler here, so that it'll be a little bit easier. Okay, so now that we have marked that 1 inch on each side, you're going to grab your double-sided tape. I'm going to use double-sided tape on mine because I am using leather on my ends here. Okay, so now that we have the double-sided tape, we're going to fold it over. I'm going to start with the fabric ones. It's going to be a lot easier to fold over. So now that I have that all pressed, we can now add in our zipper. So I'm just going to take my zipper apart. And I'm going to mark 3/8 of an inch on my zipper here. So 3/8 of an inch. Making sure they're nice and even. And you want these to be marked right here at the center. Because you want them to be opposite sides. That way you have your zipper like this. Your zipper closes like this. You want one zipper on this side and one zipper on that side. Like that. So we're going to grab our first zip here. And you want to place it right at that line that we drew. Add your second one, or you can just do one at a time if you would like. All right. So your zippers will be like this. And we're going to sew this side at an 1/8 of an inch where the zipper is at. And now you're going to do the same to the other side. And we're going to set this wrong sides down. And we're going to stitch this at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And now I want to go ahead and stitch this one down as well. So there we go. We're going to stitch this at that 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And now we're going to top stitch this all the way around at a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So we have one zipper Now we're going to do the same to this second one here. Now I have my second piece done. So when you put your zippers together, they should match up like this. Now we're going to grab our lining pieces. And I'm going to find my centers on both of my pieces here. Okay, so now that that is done, so I like my slip pocket to be in the front and I like my zipper pocket to be in the back. So that means that I want my zipper to open. So if the bag is like this, I want my zipper to open to the same way as my zipper is going. So I want it to close to the left, open to the right. So I'm going to add my zipper pocket right here. I'm going to grab my second piece here. Now I can center my zipper here. And we are going to stitch this on with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So there we go. Now we can add the lining or the top lining panel. So we have our interior top panels here, and we want to pin the bottom of the panels. So you want the bottom here lined up to the center of your zipper panel, so that when you sew it on and then you flip it up, you have your top. All right. And you want to stitch this on with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. We're going to repeat that to our second panel here. Now we're going to top stitch. So you want to pull up your zipper panel so that it is facing up just like this. And you're going to want to stitch at 1/8 of an inch on your lining. Making sure you catch your seam allowance right here. Set that aside and repeat to the second panel here. And there we go. We now have that top stitched. And now we are to the final assembly. So we're going to add our interiors like so. And I'm going to make sure that my zippers are actually out of the way. So I want to measure, or not measure, but I want to make sure that these are aligned. My seams here, you want them aligned. Now we're going to stitch this at 3/8 of an inch starting at the top and grading down to a 5/8 of an inch. Repeat to the other side. You're going to start at 5/8 and then grade up to a 3/8. We're going to do the same thing that we did to our lining. We're going to trim, making sure we leave about 2 inches from the top. We're going to leave the bottom open for now because that is how we are going to turn our bag. Once we've completed the putting the interior into the exterior. So, and then we will pull the bottom lining through the pocket, the opening pocket here that we left open, and that will be how we close our seam. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, actually no, I'm going to, I'll stay here, but I will be top stitching the bag on my cylinder arm. But that will be at a later point. So we can grab, let's go ahead and grab the bag. So I know that this is my front and this is my back. So I want to make sure that my zipper pocket is towards the back and that my slip pocket is touching the front where my nameplate is at. I'm going to push my D-rings down so that they don't get in the way. I want to turn down my zipper pocket or my recessed zipper so I don't want to accidentally sew that. And I'm going to start at the center on both sides of my bags, or my bag here. So I'm going to match my center, and then I'm going to match my center here, making sure it's open. And do the same thing to here. Just opening up my seams. Lining up that center. Now I'm just going to add some clips all the way around. Okay. So, okay, so there we go. And now we're going to stitch around this at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around our bag here. I'm just going to start here. Back stitching, making sure everything stays nice and aligned. And when I adjust, I want to make sure that my needle is down before I move my bag. Just taking my time. Making sure my needle is down. It's really the hard part is these curves right here because it's so small you really have to squish that bag down. So I'm just trying to really be mindful of that. goes down, I can just really help turn this bag over. Make sure everything is nice and lined up. My flaps are open. I don't want them to close up. It will just cause a lot of bulk when you go to sew it or top stitch it. All right, so there we go. Now for the moment of truth. We are now going to pull our bag through. Just want to be really careful. I'm going to zoom y'all out so y'all can really I'm just being super careful. Now we're going to just adjust all this, turn over, turn the flap in. I'm just really making sure that everything sits in here nicely. Making sure that everything sits together. So now I'm going to take you over to my cylinder arm and we're going to top stitch this. Okay, so I had a little bit of tension issue. I just needed to fix and adjust my feet. I'm going to continue on. I had to also change the camera angle. Okay, so now that that is done, I can trim. So now we can go ahead and finish off the last part here, which is, let me just turn you a little bit. Whoops. Which is just opening up our zipper here, pulling the lining from the zipper here. So this is our zipper pocket. We're just going to pull, making sure that our zipper pocket is not in the way so we don't accidentally sew it. We want to pull the full lining out. Like this. So now we are just going to clip We're going to sew this at 5/8 of an inch. Try to make sure that it is even. We're going to sew this 5/8 of an inch. Not even showing y'all what I'm doing. Sorry about that. Okay. So we're just going to sew this lining here closed. And we're going to pull this and just match up the seams here. And we are going to close up this box stitch here at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Repeat that to the second side. There we go. You can trim down the seam allowance And then you're going to turn your bag so that your lining is back in your bag. So you can see, sits in there nicely now. And now we just close this up here. Okay, so I'm just going to clip this here. Make sure that I'm going to make sure that when I get to the center, I stop so that I can put in a tag. Trim that piece down here. And we're just going to stitch this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, turn y'all over. Just push in your zipper pocket right. Making sure you push out those corners so it sits nicely. There we go. And now we can add on the zipper pull along with our zipper tab. Or our zip, yeah. So I'm going to grab that along with my strap. Okay, so I have my strap and I'm going to burn my edges here. So there we go. Now we can add our strap end. So now we can add on our crossbody strap. And I'm just going to go through and go through, make sure all of my threads are out, trimmed. There we go. This is such a cute bag. Look at that. Oh, sorry. Okay, so real quickly, the last thing I want to add is the decorative strap that I also made. So you can have it as a shoulder strap, or you can take it off and just do a crossbody. But this is so cute. I love, love, love how this came out. So thank you everybody for joining me for this tutorial, and I can't wait to see what you all make. Thank you. Bye everyone.